The paper we're diving into today is called Risk Assessment of Asphaltene Resin Paraffin Deposition During Reservoir Cooling in the 13th Horizon of the Uzen Oil Field, and it's by Aliya Togasheva, Riskol Bayamirova, Danibek Saduakasov, Aksharin Jolbasarova, Nurzhena Nurlibai, and Yeldos Nugumarov.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but at its core, this paper tries to figure out why and how paraffin, resin, and asphaltene deposits, let's just call them ARPD for short, become such a big headache in the Uzen oil field, especially as the reservoir cools down over decades of production.
Exactly. And for context, that Uzen field is in Kazakhstan, right? So the main problem they're looking at is, why does ARPD form so aggressively as the reservoir temperature drops, and what does that mean for how much oil they can actually get out of the ground?
Right, and it's significant because, well, when ARPD builds up, it chokes the oil flow, blocks the little pathways in the rock. So suddenly, you've got oil sitting there that you just can't get out anymore. They mention that the efficiency of getting oil out, that displacement efficiency, drops by up to 35%. That's huge.
Yeah, and one of the kind of aha moments in the paper was that the reservoir started out warm enough to keep all that waxy stuff dissolved in the oil. But after years of injecting cold water to push the oil out, cold water meaning like 7 degrees Celsius, the temperature in some zones has dropped from about 65 degrees Celsius to as low as 20 degrees Celsius.
That's a brutal change, right? And so the paraffin and wax start to crystallize inside the rocks, just like your candle wax hardening in a cold room. And when that happens, the oil basically gels up and stops moving.
So to get a handle on when this happens, they use this thing called a wax flow loop system in the lab. It simulates how oil flows and when wax starts to precipitate as you cool it down. Turns out, wax starts to appear at around 41 to 44 degrees Celsius, but the chunkier structural gel phase forms at about 33.5 to 35 degrees Celsius. That's actually higher than the temperatures they're seeing now in those cooled zones.
And their big point is, once the temp drops below those thresholds, getting that oil flowing again gets really hard. You're talking about having to heat or dissolve, not just inside the well, but in the actual rock, which is yikes.
Oh, and another thing that caught my eye is that earlier records reported a 30-degree spread about when the wax melts, which is just bananas. The authors say that led to all sorts of confusion when planning how to clean things up, since, you don't want to waste energy heating the well to a temperature you don't really need.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, imagine if your car's gas tank said empty at random levels. You never know when you should really be filling up.
That's a good analogy. And actually, it makes you think about just how complicated things get in the real world. Like, these simple deposits are dictating how much oil a field's going to produce, and not in a way you can just see or fix overnight.
And so their recommendation is to stop thinking of ARPD as just a nuisance you react to with occasional cleaning. It's a systemic thing, a major limiter on how productive a reservoir can be. And so they push for more proactive thermal management, maybe even heating the water before injecting it, or using special solvents designed for these temperatures.
Which would ultimately be better for the environment and costs too, right? Less wasted energy, fewer emergency fixes, and maybe even better oil recovery.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny. They mention that this isn't unique to Kazakhstan. Similar problems show up worldwide, like in West Africa, North America, everywhere. I once read about oil operators in Alaska dealing with frozen pipelines, but I guess it's all the same physics at play.
Totally. I mean, you start with a hot soup, you cool it down, and you get Jell-O. I used to hate that as a kid when my hot chocolate would get that weird film. Not quite the same, but you get my point.
Yeah, maybe not exactly the same, but I get what you mean. Anyway, this paper kind of hit home that these aren't just theoretical problems, real costs, real barriers for oil producers, which end up affecting everyone downstream, sometimes literally.
So, big takeaway. Academic research like this isn't the absolute truth, but it gives us frameworks to ask better questions. How do we anticipate, not just react to, these issues and actually improve practice?
And I guess, for anyone listening, it's a reminder that the hidden stuff, like temperature in a pipeline miles below ground, can turn out to be the biggest bottleneck of all.
Couldn't have put it better myself.